pick the music.
Welcome to PurposeCity, Stories of Humanity in Action, sponsored by Executive Wealth Management. Guests on PurposeCity do not necessarily reflect an endorsement of Executive Wealth Management.
Welcome to PurposeCity. Today's topic is the Revival RN story. And I have with me Erin Jedrusik.
You got it.
That's right.
You got it.
And Butch Herzog from Executive Wealth Management. And we have to introduce, you can introduce who's on the table.
Okay. This is Coco, which if you don't know that, then you've been hiding in a hole.
Yeah, so Coco, so why would we know that? Coco obviously has a face of a celebrity.
She does have the face of a celebrity. Coco is our spa puppy at Revival RN. She's 2 years old. She's been coming to work with me every day since then, and I'm pretty certain that most people come to my office to see Coco. I'm also fairly certain that's the only reason you invited me here today.
Yeah, so we'll get into it, but you do injectables. That's the right word, right?
Yep.
That sounded odd when I said it out loud. So injectables being face fill,
cosmetic injectables. People commonly know Botox, dermal fillers, things like that.
Okay. And have you done any of those procedures on Coco?
Not yet. She's only 2. She's a little early in the game, but
And what breed?
We'll keep her young.
What's that?
She is a Shih Tzu, but she was the runt of the litter, so she's extraordinarily tiny at 3 pounds.
So that'd be 14, right? You want to know how many is that in dog
I'm not
years?
sure, yeah.
And I always try to, especially at the beginning, just turn the conversation towards myself.
Of course.
So this is my attempt.
Of course.
Is I actually contacted you and asked, how do I get a dog like Coco at one time?
Yes.
And I almost did.
You almost
but
did.
Coco's 1 in a million.
However, there's probably about 6 others out there since people have met Coco that have come from the same parents.
I literally tried to get a foof dog like that. So I came close. I got the same breeder, and I totally forgot the breed's name that I had. I don't have the dog anymore, but the dog is happy in another home because the dog I didn't have time. It was a puppy, and it did not have the mannerisms like this one.
She's very special. This cannot be replicated.
Mine was Joey, if you remember. Then it was Hank.
I didn't remember the name.
Well, I was asking you about names. Remember, I was like, I think Hank. What do you think about Hank? And then I had Joey.
Yeah.
I think I tried Waylon. I even did Hank 3.
Hank 3?
Yeah, because there's Hank Williams Jr. No. There's
like
Hank
the
Williams.
third.
And there's Hank Williams Jr. And then he has a son, Hank 3, that does music. I thought Hank 3 just sounds a little edgier than Hank.
People want to replicate Coco. It just can't. I literally hit the dog jackpot.
Yeah. Because it's super cute, but I can't walk around with a dog like that, so I had to name it something like a Hank 3. Even Joey was too cute.
Just got to leave the dress off and you're good.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't name a dog after a human name. I just, to me, when I like Frank or
sometimes I think it's
there's
cute.
Bill. There's Bill.
Sometimes I think it's cute. Depends.
Coco's a good name.
Yeah.
We
had a contest to name Coco. She was nameless for about a month and a half. I couldn't come up with one, and so I ran a contest at work, did a big giveaway, and then I had thousands of names, and I had to decipher it down. So she was nameless for a while.
Sometimes
Come here.
Sometimes it's both, though. Like I named my son Max, and that was the #1 dog name that year. Almost every year, right? So you can't have a human.
You didn't tell him that, did
Dog
you?
name. I didn't name him because of that, but it just happened.
Okay, good.
So Butch is with Executive Wealth Management. What
Morning.
do you do there? Good morning. What do you do, and what do they do?
Well, good morning, everybody. I am a private wealth advisor, which is kind of a fancy term for a financial advisor over at Executive Wealth Management. More or less, we manage the financial lives and decisions for all of our clients. So we try to make their life simpler. We try to be that guide, navigate any financial decisions they might have, and really, in the end, we just build relationships and do it for the long term.
And because you particularly are the co-host today, I have to ask you a brief history of the company.
Good question.
Yeah.
So I've actually been familiar with the company ever since I was born, and it was started by my father back in '81, and some say '85. that's still.
So you're the
there,
fourth.
but I'm the fourth,
And he's the third.
and he's the third. And I've been around, or at least I've been seeing him operate out of the company for that long. So
Right.
I've been kind of keeping tabs until I came back a couple years ago.
Cool.
Back to town. I was in Chicago.
And you have a dog.
I have two.
What kind of dog?
One is the new one, Birdie. She's oh shoot, Sarah's gonna kill me on this one. A poodle and a Brittany Spaniel.
Okay.
So much energy. And the other one is a border collie and a husky that I got in college for free, and turned out to be a great dog.
That's awesome.
I love dogs.
Well, Coco's treats
Coco,
can help
calm
with
down,
the,
Coco.
Yeah.
well, Coco's CBD treats can help calm your hyper one.
Okay,
so we'll talk about that.
I have in my notes, if you see it, dogs with an arrow to CBD, because I saw on your website, I was
Yeah.
doing my research, and I was like, well, not for my hyper one, for my one who gets car anxiety.
Yep. That's
Will that
what,
help?
Yeah, it'll absolutely help.
Okay, we'll take this offline because I actually have dogs CBD.
Well, if you play your cards right, I'm pretty sure my assistant's showing up here at the end with some treats for you guys. So
Oh, nice.
you get to take some home to your baby tonight.
All right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about that. So that's partially, besides your dog being like your in-house celebrity, your social media celebrity, she's now on product.
Yeah, she is now on product. So Treehouse CBD is a Michigan-owned company. They manufacture full spectrum, high quality CBD, which is used for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you guys at least are somewhat familiar with it. So it can be anxiety, muscular pain, joint stiffness. For Coco, it helps her eat, gives her appetite. She's a little bit of a, little nugget, so it's always a problem. A lot of benefits to it for humans and animals as well. So we manufacture our own line of CBD cream at Revival RN. We also sell bath bombs. It just is kind of a popular thing. People really like them. They work really good. And so for a limited time, they are featuring Coco on their CBD Dog Treats, which gave me a perfect opportunity to say, let's do something really fun and cool with this, which is what I like to do. So the entire month, we've turned it into a giant fundraiser for Wagon Tails, which is a local animal rescue. So we got a big event coming up the entire month. Anyone that comes in our spa and buys our treats, we donate all the money to the rescue, and we're doing all kinds of giveaways and fun things with it too. So we're riding coattails of Coco to help save some of the homeless puppies.
Nice. This is totally random, but every time I hear CBD, I think of CDB. Anybody in here know what that is? Culture. Has to do with music. I'm even looking in the peanut gallery behind
You're gonna
us.
lose me if it's music.
Do you know? No. Charlie Daniels Band.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Bringing myself back into it, interviewing him once at his house outside Nashville, and in his garage he had like this 1970s Camaro or something, and it had a big lightning bolt, and it said CDB.
Is that the devil went down to Georgia?
Yeah, definitely down to
Okay.
Georgia.
Oh, wait,
Charlie
now I
Daniels.
got it. Now I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I know songs. I don't know names.
Are we gonna put that on?
And-
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Oh, that would be Hugh Devil went down to Georgia.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So, the dog moves. Hello, Coco.
She is live.
So what else do you? So Revival RN.
Yes.
Tell me how you went from a nurse, or
Yes.
even what led you to be a nurse,
Sure.
and then to Revival RN, to expanding to a wellness spa, that whole series of what motivates you? How does that happen?
It happens from, I think, a lot of different facets, right? So before I was a nurse, believe it or not, I've been a nurse for 17 years. Okay. So I've been a nurse for 17 years before, in my previous life, before I was aesthetic injector and specialized in the industry I'm in now. I worked primarily at Mott Children's Hospital at U of M in pediatric intensive care. I know you're familiar,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Our
Right.
paths could have crossed and didn't know
I
it.
think that at some point they probably did. And so I spent a tremendous amount of time there. My specialty was pediatrics, trauma, nursing. And I honestly, when I worked there, I was like, I will never leave. I love this job. I'm gonna do this till the day I die. It was both rewarding and heartbreaking, right? People didn't understand how I could do that. I'd have friends and family members. Babies are dying in there every day. How do you go to work? How do you
Right.
do this? These are things people don't see in their entire lifetime. My perspective, one, I love working with kids. I've always loved working with kids. Everything I've done, not now, but everything I've done up until this point has pretty much been revolved around working with children. And my perspective on that was, whether I'm here or not, these kids are sick. these kids are sick, they're dying, they have these things going on, and I am trained and capable of taking care of them. And if it was my baby in the ICU or my teenager in the pediatric ICU, I would want someone like me taking care of it. And it's not really about me, right?
So you're a nurse in pediatric ICUs. So for those that aren't familiar with that world, and we both are.
Yes.
From two different perspectives.
Absolutely.
So I knew of nurses in there and got to know families in there, as I was one of those families at one time. And so people get a perspective of what life is outside of your own home, as there's families in these ICUs that nurses are helping that have kids that are growing up, they're of school age, and all they've ever known is living in that hospital room, maybe even in a guarded bed, like almost like in a bubble kind of situation. And I knew one kid there, I don't know, he's probably 10 years old. He's at every birthday there, every Christmas.
Yeah. So
that's been his family's life for 10 years.
yes.
And had 80 plus surgeries. In that's his whole life. All he knows is living in a hospital, in an ICU, and perfectly happy. He's not, if you think of an ICU kid that's just laying there, and this is a normal, active kid that has one specific problem that just, they can't quite fix it. They can't quite let him go. He has to recover from something minor. Well, it could be major, but it's a minor surgery. But it just doesn't take, and they redo it, and they redo it. And the family has this hope of maybe going home next month, and they just never do.
Coolest thing about kids don't feel sorry for themselves. You throw one of us in a hospital and be like, oh, I don't feel good, my belly, my arm, blah. Kids are like, I'm fine. I'm fine, because they want to play video games. They want to get the hell out of there. They want to go do something fun, right? And so they're cool kids. So, so we saved a ton of lives.
Yeah.
We lost a ton. It was, a double-edged sword. Said I would stay there forever, and then I had 2 kids of my own. And that changes things, right? Yeah. So I have now, they're grown-ish. They're still babies to me. My youngest son is 14 and my oldest son is 16. And my world revolves around these two young men. So when I had them working holidays and weekends at midnights, probably for the next 10 years, because there's not a big turnover in the ICU. It's such a specialty.
Right.
I chose my kids at some point in time. And so I always say I sold out, but.
Would I be right in saying, and this is totally a lay person's guess, but
sure.
Having been on the family side of it, did you get trained extra for putting in IVs, or do you think you become a more specialty than other nurses because special needs kids are so difficult to find a vein, to do it in a way that doesn't hurt them or scare them? That takes maybe an on-the-job learned skill.
It's an acquired skill. It's something that comes with time. It's the kind of skill that the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right.
And in different, departments, different divisions, different dynamics determines kind of how you do that. So, when I worked in emergency medicine, it was unfortunately pinning down a screaming toddler. Well, someone's got his little leg locked so I can put an IV in his foot.
Yeah.
In the ICU, the child might be sedated because they're so sick that they're on a ventilator. So different dynamics there.
Right. And what you do is so serious because now you have children with problems going under, and that causes its whole other risk factor of them waking up properly and the proper. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot. And there was this crossover when we worked there. So some of these children go home, right? And they still need care when they go home. So, and many of them go home on ventilators. They're, chronic lung conditions, preemies, different things like that. So University of Michigan had a home care division where there's several different divisions, but one of them was, pediatric home care. And so we would provide respite care, private duty nursing in the home. And that was a service that U of M provided. So a lot of us nurses that worked in the ICU that specialized in this, we already were taking care of these children. Some of them we had known for 3 months, 6 months longer. They'd spent time with us, then would go home. So we would go and it was kind of like a moonlighting job for us to go to their homes and take care of these children. So I kind of started doing a little bit of both. And eventually the department, the home care division, offered me a position as a supervisor, for which I quickly said no multiple times. And eventually they talked me into it, and the nice schedule versus, like I said, the time away from my kids won out. So I got into that field for a short period of time, still working for U of M, working as a nursing supervisor, overseeing several different divisions of that. And it was a cool gig, and it was something I enjoyed doing. But I'm just not the kind of girl to sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
I just don't roll that way. So
I'm very familiar with the Ronald McDonald House over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you're ever feeling sorry for yourself, just stop by there. And just see
the years I spent in the ICU, the years I spent working there, the things that I saw, the things that I experienced, the things I watched families go through, it changes your perspective on everything. Every day of my life, every minute I'm awake, you think about that. There's not a day you don't. And all of a sudden the things that, you're stressed out about it, you're worried about, or you think the sky is falling, really aren't that big of a deal.
So I know that you are very philanthropic. Mm-hmm. Did this kind of spark your philanthropic, I guess your goals or your philanthropic vein to get into that? Yeah,
I think I've always kind of had a little bit in me to kind of always want to, help others and do things in small and big scales, depending on where the opportunities were, right? Obviously, having my business now creates a platform, creates an opportunity for me to do more of that. I provide services that are very highly sought after. It can be very expensive. So kind of leveraging that as a way to raise money and help those that need it is something that I've been fortunate enough to do. Doing it back before that, yes, absolutely. I think I've always been that way. The nursing component of that, that just changes. It does. It gives you more empathy. It gives you a different understanding when you're in there and you see families going through these things and you realize kind of how bad it really can be. It just kind of puts perspective on things.
Yeah, for sure. It affects you the rest of your life. So, as you know, so I had a special needs daughter, full care, in and out of ICUs on a continual basis. I would spend many weekends there. But it's hard to say I never felt sorry for myself, but it was hard to when I would see families that don't ever get out of there or they never take their kid home. And, I'd have to go to work all day and then come home in the evening, not to home, but to an ICU. And I'd do that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all week. And then let wife go home who's been there for 5 days so she can sleep in a bed. And then I'd sleep where there's no place to sleep in an ICU for a weekend, basically. And that's a tough life. But for me, it'd be spurts.
Yep.
But there's people there that do that all the time. And that stays with you, even though that's not part of my life anymore.
Yeah. And I think that any nurse you talk to, no matter where they work or what kind of nursing they do, probably has a story.
Yeah.
There's always, I don't know a nurse that doesn't have something that drove them to become a nurse. People don't usually become nurses because of the paycheck or, bragging rights or whatever it may be. There's usually something, some personal experience they had, whether they were sick or someone they knew was sick or something that they went through that kind of brought them to that reality. That this is kind of what I want to do. For me, always knowing I wanted to help people. Yeah, but in what capacity at 19, 20 years old? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. I came out of high school and I had, probably like medically speaking or personally speaking, kind of the two biggest experiences that I went through that probably was, it was definitely what made me decide that really this is what I want to do with my life and how I want to do it. Is I had, when I was in high school, we discovered I had scoliosis. So people don't know what that is, but it basically means my spine was crooked.
Yeah, it's when you're in grade school and they make you bend over and touch your toes and someone looks at your spine.
Except I apparently missed that day every day of my life until I was 15 years old. So many people along that road dropped the ball. Don't ask me how. But all of a sudden here I was at 15, almost 16 years old in a doctor's office and they bend over and they're like, whoa. I'm like the Hunchback of Notre Dame if I bend over. My rib cage is so shifted, it just sits like this. And we were all clueless. And he's like, hey, you got to get this girl in. Well, I was a major athlete. My whole world as a child and as a teenager and in high school revolved around sports. I was a figure skater. I was a gymnast. I was a cheerleader. In middle school, I did track and swimming. And you name it. If it was a sport, I was playing it. And that was my livelihood. And it went from 0 to 100 because they missed it. So we went to Children's Hospital. We went to a lot of places, but we started there and it went from like, hey, your back's a little crooked. Let's go get some x-rays to the doctor coming in the room and saying, this is so severe that we've passed any window of doing anything other than surgery. Mm-hmm. And as an adult, you process that very differently than you do at 15, 16 years old, right? You get told you can't go to a party and the world is over. Right. So, you get grounded and it's ending. You might as well just die. And so at that age, all I could hear, everything else was white noise was, you're never going to play sports again. You're never going to compete in figure skating again. We're going to cut your spine down to your spinal cord. We're going to wake you up in the middle of that surgery to make sure you're not paralyzed. You might be paralyzed.
Nice. Yeah.
We're going to put 12-inch rods in your spine. We're going to drill it together, and you may never walk again. And there was a whole lot of more important things said, but that was all that I heard, right? So that hit me hard. So I went from straight A student and major athlete to I didn't want to get out of bed. Right, I didn't want to do anything. My world was over. So I struggled a lot my second half of junior year, senior year, kind of pushed through, suffered with some depression and issues. And it was just a complete flip-flop. So ultimately I waited until I graduated high school, had the surgery when I was 19. It was horrific. It became kind of my passion when I worked in the ICU because that's where children that have scoliosis surgery go. Mm-hmm. So I could relate to that. But when I was in that hospital for that time and that excruciating pain, there was these nurses. There was, there was good and there was okay, but there was like extraordinary. There was those people that just got it. They knew how bad I was and they knew that those teeny tiny little things meant everything to me. And to this day, there's, a couple of those nurses that I will never forget.
Right.
And so there was that moment. And then I come out of that and, I don't think it maybe was a year later. My grandma was sick. So my grandma has Alzheimer's and dementia. There was a lot of dynamics in my family at the time, but I think I was 19, maybe 20. And there was nobody in my family stepping up to the plate to take care of grandma. So that fell on me. Right. So we ended up with nursing homes. And then I tried to take care of her at home for a while. Then we got her in a nursing home. Then they abused her and didn't take care of her. So then that whole thing changed. And I found myself at 19 years old trying to navigate probate court and explain to them that I need to be her legal guardian at 19 and there's no family around. It's just me and grandma has no money. So I'm not a kid in here trying to get some paycheck. There's nothing. There's some sweatpants in a locker and that's about it. And so going through that process and taking care of my grandma and watching people that were really, there's no other way to say it. There were some really horrible people that didn't take care of her. And then there were some really great people that did. And I think after going through both of those situations, my job in automotive industry became very unimportant to me very quickly. So at 20 years old, I had a full career. I was an account manager for an automotive company. I had my own house. Most of my friends were still partying, and I had a company car, my own house, and a whole career. And I literally walked away from all of it.
Right.
I sold my house. I quit my job. I worked at a bar, and I went to nursing school. And that was that.
Huh. Wow. Fast forward a little bit too. I'm glad you added the background of your scoliosis story because let's talk a little bit about your Ninja Warrior activities. if anybody heard that you just said you had scoliosis and they saw what you do,
back surgery, scoliosis.
Somehow I didn't think we were going to dodge that one. Yeah. So, okay. So fast forward now into,
So you basically made the career switch for the benefit of being a mom. From a career switch from leaving like a pediatric
ICU to ultimately office, and then from there I went into emergency medicine when I started injecting. Okay. So that was kind of there's this kind of transition period during that. But about the time that I started Revival RN, so I started injecting in 2013. I started becoming an aesthetic injector at that time. Started specializing in it. There's something. Being an injector, doing cosmetic injectables, some of it's medical based too, treatments, some of it's aesthetic, but it's very much an art as it is a science. And I say this over and over again. People hear me say this all the time. It's very much an art as it is a science. So I study facial anatomy and structural, and we train all the time in our industry. It's the kind of profession that changes, and it's medicine, right? And so you go through this, and this has continued since 2013, since I started. But very early on when I started injecting, like baby, I realized that I was just really good at this. Like I just had an eye for it and I couldn't really explain it. Kind of like I always use the analogy of like a kid that can just play the piano and no one taught him, right? And you're like, well, how do you know how to do that? And he's like, I don't know, I just do, right? And there was something about facial anatomy. There was something about the aesthetics of it that just clicked with me. And so I knew really early on that I was good at it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And that was kind of what drove, the business in the early stages. So fast forward 2017, where you're getting a ninja world. I decided to go out on my own, start Revival Run. I started small first before we opened our expansion in 2019. At the same time, I just gone through a divorce. So here I am with a single mom and 2 kids, and I just quit my job and started my own business. Who the hell does that, right? And, it was scary, but I think always in my life, I've always had a lot of guts and drive, and like, here we go. Everyone's got their little like mottos or things that they kind of live by or think. And I always say this when people ask me about it is, no matter what, whether it's work or my family or my friends or ninja or anything else that I've done in my life, my kind of criteria is, what is the absolute worst thing that can happen, right? What is the absolute worst case scenario here? Can I live with that? If I can live with that, then I'm doing it, right? And so, you play that out, and I decide, worst case scenario, I can live with this, right? I can always go back to my ICU if things don't work out, whatever. So I go off and I do that. So, but we're struggling, right? You got a family, you got dynamics are changing. I got 2 young boys. There's a lot going on. I'm trying to start a business, and my boys are like, this Ninja Warrior, American Ninja Warrior Mom show, and they're watching obsessively, and I'm not paying attention. And they're like, there's a gym in Howell and it opened, and we got to go. And I'm like, that sounds kind of crazy, but kind of fun, right? So, like, if you're going to do it, I want to do it. So we go and we check it out. And it was, any of you guys have seen American Ninja Warrior, the show, right? So you know the drill. It's exactly how it is on the show. And we loved it, and it stuck. And so we started going, and they have a competition team. They said, hey, why don't you guys join our competition team? And it rolled into 2.5 years of the coolest time I ever spent with my kids, the best shape I was ever in my life. We traveled and competed. It was like being the hockey mom that played hockey. You'd go to like these weekend, and like, I had friends that did it with me. And one of the owners of the gym, Sarah, and I became great friends. And we'd go to Canada for a weekend, and we'd roll in on a Friday, and the older kids and the adults would compete on Saturday, and then you could drink the beer at night because you were done competing. While the kids swam in the pool, and then the little ones competed on Sunday, and you came back. And I mean, it kind of consumed us, Ron, in the best possible way. And meanwhile, everybody's like, you are absolutely insane. Your spine is completely fused.
Right. What
are you doing? Like, you can't be swinging from bars and jumping off of buildings, and like, this is insane.
That's what drove you.
Yeah. Right? And I was like, watch me, right? I'm that girl that's like, tell me I can't do something. You want to get me to do something? Tell me I can't do it. Now you're going to really watch me do it, right? And I had to find different ways around it, right? Sometimes I had to do things a little bit differently than somebody else. But that was the strongest my back ever was. And it was a great experience. And so we did that for a few years, and it was awesome.
Well, it goes for so many areas of your life, whether it be athletic, whether it be social. Well, hi, Coco.
Coco has awoken.
Nap time is over.
But it goes for so many facets of your life. Stepping out of your comfort zone, right? And taking chances and embracing change.
Right.
Change is good, but most people perceive it as bad because they're afraid of it.
They're afraid of it.
They're used to what they're used to. And I'm not preaching or anything, but I'm learning, constantly learning. Thank you.
What kind of hand cream do you have on?
I don't know. But I'm constantly learning. And then in finance too, things are going to change. And it's how you react to the change. And I just think that's such a great story about perseverance, change, taking risks. It's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, we're no different, right? You have a story, I have a story, Ken has a story. We've all been through experiences. The difference maybe between me and someone else is I have a big mouth and I talk about it, right?
you make up for the rest of us.
Right? I have no shame in my game, so I'll tell you all the dirty and the good. I'll tell you all the dumb things I did when I opened my own business that I had to learn the hard way, and
we want to hear about those.
I will. You know what? I couldn't tell you how many times the other injectors come to me and say, I want to start my own business, right? You're doing this, you're doing an awesome job, give me advice. I said, I will save you the time. Sit down with me and I will tell you everything I did wrong so that you don't do it. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. But it's a learning curve, right? But all of those things, I mean, you have a choice, right? I have a choice. You have back surgery. That's a choice. Am I going to roll over and be like, oh, my back's hurt, I can't do anything? No, I'm going to find a way to do it, right? Am I going to be faced with challenges? Absolutely. Same with the business. Was it scary? Was it risky to go out and do that and take that leap of faith? Absolutely. But it's kind of back to that, what's the worst case scenario?
Right. So who inspires you Do you have any icons, motivations, personal or just people out there? Or, any forms of, for instance, my grandfather's not around anymore, but I still try to live a life where I think he would be proud of. Like I respected his life and I want to live one similar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have those people in our lives, and I've been fortunate enough that I've got, a lot of friends and a lot of supporters, and I've surrounded myself with a lot of really great people that have taught me over the years and motivated me and pushed me and challenged me. And I think when you surround yourself with people like that, that does help you grow and mature and do those things. But I think for me, it's, I'm kind of old school. Like when I was a little kid, most of what I got, most of my drive, I think came from my daddy, and my dad is still around and he's awesome. But when you're a young kid and you're growing up, what you're told over and over and over again is what you believe, right? And so there's unfortunately circumstances where kids are told, you can't do it, you're incapable, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're, this or what, all of these things. And these kids have no self-esteem and no self-confidence. And it's, society and, all the things out there just make this worse that we didn't have when we were kids. But I grew up in this weird bubble, very normal bubble, weird now maybe to some people, but to me it was very normal, where I just came from a very loving family. My mom told me she loved me about 100 times a day, and it was annoying as hell. And I tell my kids the same thing.
I was going to say, probably
all
your
day
kids
long.
are saying the same thing now.
My teenagers don't go to bed without saying I love you back, or they are in trouble, and I will turn their light on. And but you hear it over and over again, right? You feel loved. And my dad was the same way, but my dad was an entrepreneur. My dad owned his own business. My uncle owned his own business. I think it's kind of, I would say, like, it's kind of in your blood. Like, you just, some people just have that and some people don't. And I'm like, I think it was just always in my blood. I always wanted my own business, Before I had an injectable business, I owned a security company, I owned a daycare, small businesses, but things that I did before. They were kind of cool and fun. And, but my dad was always like, you can do anything you want. If you work hard enough, find a way. Someone tells you no, figure out how to do it. No one's going to take care of you. You're a girl, right? Old school. Go find someone to marry you and take. No, absolutely not. You take care of yourself.
Right.
You work hard. You do the right things. Doesn't matter if you're working at McDonald's or what you're doing. You work 100%. And so you kind of get some like grit from that, and you get some, some work ethic. And I had he'll tell you now, how many jobs did you have when you were a kid? How many jobs? Like 1 million. I worked 1 million jobs and nobody made me have one of them. I would work 2-3 jobs at one time. Because why not, right? Why not? What am I going to do? I go play with my friends after work. I'm going to go have a job and do these things. And so I had that kind of instilled in him and instilled in me from him all the time. It wasn't like a passing conversation. It was an ongoing conversation all the time. So by the time I was 19 and I moved out, and they were both absolutely like, no, you are not going. And I was so independent and so stubborn, and I have a lot of pride. And so, I went off on my own at 19 and got my own apartment, and I ate my ramen noodles and I drank my Kool-Aid, and I didn't ask my parents for a penny because Dad told me not to. And to this day, I never have.
Ramen, right?
I
ramen?
say ramen.
I know.
I know it's
Everybody
wrong.
loves ramen.
I know it's
You're getting
wrong,
it mixed up.
But I say ramen.
But ramen really should raise their prices. This is a little off topic, right? Because
what do they cost now?
they're amazing. I don't know. They're like free.
They were like 33 cents when I was a kid, and I don't know how I still know that, but I do.
Right.
Well, Ken, their target market is
Poor.
lower end, poor.
I know.
I was
People
poor.
scraping.
Right.
So if they raise the prices.
But the point of that story
Yeah.
is that I ate my ramen noodles and drank my Kool-Aid, and I never had any debt. And at 19 years old, I didn't have a credit card. I paid my bills. I lived within my means. And you all go through times in your life where you have more and you have less, right? But my whole life, I've kind of lived that way, and just worked hard, took care of myself, found a way to get it done, and never put myself in a situation where I had to turn to others for help.
Yeah.
I respect that. I'm just listening. I'm like drawing parallels from what you're saying to like what I'm hearing from clients all the time, because everyone has a story.
Right. Everyone.
Every background's different. Every current situation's different. And there's some tried and true truths,
Sure.
fundamental truths, which is debt management, saving more than you spend, or excuse me, spending less than you earn and saving some for yourself. And,
Sure.
and it just, that's
It's a hard lesson to learn if you aren't taught it, I think.
no, you're right.
I think it's a really hard lesson to learn. It's very easy to want that thing that's in front of you. whether it's within your means or not.
We live in a world of instant gratification.
Right. We want it, we want it, we want it. So to have that self-control to say, I do want it and I'll get it one day, but I'm going to have to keep working really, really hard to get there.
So, question, how did you transition from a nurse to what's the official title right now?
Aesthetic injector, nurse injector, cosmetic injector. There's a lot of interchangeable terms, but aesthetic injector.
Is that a normal pathway?
No, not at all.
Okay. It's not like a prereq. You have to be a nurse first. Okay.
No, not at all. So you're getting sad that everyone's leaving you? You come off the table. Come take a little chill with me, Coco. So when I was young, I mean, I'm old now.
You are young. Come on.
I'm not going to say how old I am. I will. I'm 42. I don't care. I'm 42. When I was probably 24, 25, I started getting Botox because I went to my dermatologist and I was like, 24, which is really pathetic. I was like, I feel like I'm really old and my face is ugly and you need to make me look pretty again, which is obnoxious. And, you get the chemical peels and you get this. But one day he looked at me and it was the Cosmetic Dermatology Center at U of M because they had payroll deduction, which is even worse, because you're like, oh, just take it out of my paycheck, right?
Never going to see it.
Never going to see that. And he's like, you know what? I think if you let me put a little Botox in your forehead, because I was very animated, right? I'm still animated, but the forehead just doesn't move as much now. And he's like, I think if we smoothed out those lines a little bit and did a couple of things, you'd feel really good. So, $1,500 later, I'm happy as a clam. And I'm like, this is awesome. So I can't afford to do this all the time at that age, but I would go see him when I could. And then I kind of started to get intrigued by it. And I'm like, well, when are you going to give me a job? Why don't you hire me and teach me how to do this? He's like, yeah, right. You're never going to get in here. It's never going to happen. But I don't like being told no. So that's not going to fly with me, right? So I go home and I start doing my research. And I would say I probably spent about 6 months doing research on the industry. What is it? Is it growing? Is it viable? What does it take to do this? Is it safe? Wow. What's the investment into this and all of these things? And I remember going to my family and, they'll probably be upset for me saying this, but it's just the truth. And pretty much everybody told me I was stupid. Pretty much that was the consensus. And maybe not in those exact words, but they were like, you just want to have a wrinkle-free forehead for free. And that's a terrible idea. Why would you go you're not going to go start a business and make a career out of it. You're a nurse, right? But, I don't like to be told no. So watch me, right? Watch me. So I went off and it's kind of a good old boys club as an injector. And it's not fair. A few years fast forward from now, I'd love nothing more than to have kind of like a little residency program to help injectors get into our industry and really help them build and have the skill set to do it and then help them find job placement. Because there's a big gap between those two in our industry right now. But I was going to go out and do it on my own. I crossed paths with someone that had already established a business. We decided, hey, let's not be each other's competition. Let's work together. So I started working there with somebody else. I got experience over the next probably 5 years. And then, as I mentioned before, decided to go out on my own and started Revive Loren, and it kind of evolved from there into what I have now.
So you mentioned part art, and you found you were good at it. So would that mean, so you can train people where to put the needles and the face anatomy. So does the art come in that they don't come out looking like Joan Rivers? Did I say names? But where it looks natural. I mean, is that the art of it?
Yeah,
if it's a natural flow to what their face is, like a good haircut for a certain face, not the same haircut for everybody, kind of thing.
Exactly, right? Exactly. No two faces are created equal. Yeah. I have, a million, tools in my toolbox, whether it be products I use and injectables that I use, techniques that I use. I train all the time, and how I'm going to treat you is going to be different than how I'm going to treat you. And there is the science piece of that too, is there's, we call it the golden ratio or 5 proportions. There's balance to our faces that we want. And there's measurements, and we use calipers to do this and to create that. But humans know what that is, even with all the training, without the training that I have. You can look at somebody and, let's use an extreme example, like a Victoria's Secret model, right? Or someone like some dude on the cover of GQ, and you're like, that is a very attractive human being. You don't necessarily know why, but you were like, that is a very attractive human being. And we study, that balance and that science behind that. So there's that component to it. And then there's the training and skills behind. What I do, people can confuse is like, oh, it's a spa, you do facials, you do massages. This is a medical practice. There's very serious complications that can come from what we do. The extensive training that I have and those that are really prevalent in my industry have is far beyond what you could ever imagine, to make sure that what we're doing is safe and that we don't injure people.
Right.
And people should always be very conscious of choosing their injector because of that.
That's really interesting, because for the uneducated mind,
In this area.
It's not just your typical spa, right?
No,
What,
not at all.
What are the, I guess, main services that you guys provide for your clients and clientele? I just, again, for the uneducated mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, it's kind of a unique dynamic, the structure of the business model that I have compared to others in my industry.
Yeah.
So a medical spa, what people traditionally think of is, you have an injector, right? You do Botox and fillers and things like that. A lot of them own lasers. I think lasers are awesome. I go to all my friends for them. I just don't want to own them. And it's really medical, clinically based. And so my business is almost kind of divided into two. So if you ever come by, and I invite you to come by and check it out.
Yeah.
The front end of my business is what I kind of consider my medical spa. So we do IV vitamin therapy, which is a very popular service, and that can be used to treat anything from symptom management for clients of ours that have cancer to a hangover.
Right.
To wellness. There's people that come on a regular basis to keep their vitamins and nutrients in their body, and that proactive wellness and taking good care of themselves. There's obviously our injectable practice, which is what I do. So that's the Botox, the dermal fillers, all the anti-aging. We do it medically too. So some people do it for migraines, grinding, clenching, bruxism. There's a lot of other things for that. So that's the medical piece. That's where we have a medical director that oversees our practice. That's where the safety and all of that comes into play, and all of my years of experience as a nurse comes into play.
So you have a medical doctor that, like, is an overseer?
Yep. So he's not an injector, but Dr. House has to oversee our practice. So every state has different rules and regulations, and that's ours in Michigan. But then what I spun and I did differently than other places do is, if you walk through my back doors, I have a traditional day spa.
Right.
So you think about going on vacation with your wife, and you're going to go get some couples massage or, nice facial, go in the sauna, things like that. That's what we're creating there. So there's not a lot of that out in our area. There's just not. Mm-hmm. You're on vacations places, yes. You kind of go east side, you'll find that in our town, there's just not a place where you really can go and, spend an afternoon. And so we have a beautiful day spa where we provide all of these kind of relaxing and rejuvenating experiences and services.
Okay. That's really, that is unique. And now I feel like I know what you're talking about, but I wouldn't know the first thing about injections.
No. That's my job.
Do you see a lot of guys going there?
What?
I
She's
do.
the only one I would trust my face
Asking
with.
for a friend.
I do. We do. And with the utmost confidentiality, I will walk in. We're a small town, right? Brighton's a strong community. We all support each other. I have more than a few times walked into a store and seen a client of mine and walked right past them like I have no idea who they are. Because I don't know who they're with.
Yeah.
Right? If I go up to you and I'm like, hey, what's up, Butch? And then I walk away, your wife's going to be like, who is she?
And why?
And why do you know her?
Why haven't you bought me one of those packages?
Right.
I can test right now, if my family listens, that I've been a client of Erin's.
Well, you look great.
Well, I'm actually 94.
No comment. Yeah, he is. So that's the structure of our business. I built my business around a lot of trust with my clientele. So my business is primarily word of mouth. I social media, I have fun on Instagram, I goof around, we post pictures of Coco here in the studio and we do fun things like that. But really at the end of the day, if I'm not going to recommend something to my clients, I'm not going to offer something to my clients unless I really think I can knock it out of the park. And I do. Yeah. I'm good at what I do. And so they trust me. And I built a reputation around that. And so when I opened Revival RN in 2017, and I'd been injecting since 2013, my business grew exponentially and very rapidly. Yeah. And so I went from a small space to a medium space to, I got to figure this out. And things happened pretty quick. So I opened our full wellness center, which is in Green Oak Village Place Mall. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful facility. It was a fun project. I had no idea what I was doing. I've never built a home or anything, but I still have literally the piece of paper where I drew out and was like, I want the room here and here. And the cool thing is I would sit with these architects and they're like, she's just a dumb girl. She's that's never going to happen.
What you wanted, though.
And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I'm looking at I have no idea their computers. I'm like, just move the little line over here and move that little line. And they're just like shaking their heads. Like, when is she going to go? And finally something clicked with them. And they were like, oh, maybe. Wait, yeah, maybe. So the way the building, I gutted it, built it from scratch. So it's like a second home to me. I'm really proud of it. Is almost identical to the little pieces of paper I first drew way back when the project started.
You should frame those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
So when I first was sharing the idea of this podcast, you and your shop is really, I've used as the example, which knows this is true. I've used this as the example of what this podcast should be about. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I used you by name, but Revival RN, it's a successful business, and the person that owns it is a really authentic, genuine, and caring person. And those are the kind of people we want to talk about or to, and just find out what they're like, what their story is. So I appreciate you doing that. And I think when I first met you, and then I saw subsequent times after that, your charitable nature, but it was a story of, a sad story, and you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to lead up to it. You can tell a little bit about it, and then Butch has
something to share. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I'm always looking for, opportunities to help others when I can, and I don't, they come about sometimes, right? These things fall into our plates and we react. And so I left work one day. I was still, the new spa wasn't open yet. It was under construction. And so I was working out of a small space and building out the other one. And I leave work one day, and I do a lot of Instagram, social media, and I have a Facebook account, but I'm not real active on Facebook. And I leave work and I open my phone, and there's like a bajillion messages on my Facebook. And I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah. And I open it up, and I'm kind of trying to sort through it. And someone had tagged me on like a group page in town, and it said they were looking for someone to do IV vitamin therapy, which I do, specifically vitamin C therapy for a girl that had cancer. And so I get home and I'm kind of sorting these messages. I'm trying to sort out. Meanwhile, a friend of mine texts me and says, hey, do you do vitamin therapy with vitamin C? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, my friend's daughter is really sick and she's got cancer. And she was getting these treatments before, and she can't find someone now, and they really need someone to do it. So I was like, okay, give me your number. And so literally it's played out in like 30 minutes. And I call her mom, Debbie, and I'm like, hey, I got these messages, what can I do for you guys? Find out she's just a few minutes down the road from me. She's right in my town. And, and her daughter's very, very young, newly married. Her husband, Kyle, they have this beautiful boy, Liam, little cute redhead, curly-haired kid. And I said, let me come over, because as a nurse too, I need to assess the situation. I didn't know medically, is it safe for me to do this, right? In general sense, I'm treating healthy people in my spa. So now I've got to get my medical director involved, do an assessment. But I've also had, a friend of mine that I lost from cancer, and I know how awful that can be, and you just feel like crap, and you just want to feel good. And so I stopped and picked up a few things, and we stopped by, and I ended up spending the whole evening with them. And when I left, I just was so compelled that I've got to do something to help them. Financially they're struggling, she's sick, they've got all these things going on, and I'm kind of a knee-jerk reaction kind of girl. Most of what I do is not calculated at all. And so I didn't have space, and how am I going to do this? And I scrambled around, and I think Ken was involved a little bit. And so I called my friend that owns the space, which is a yoga studio in town. And I said, listen, I need to have an event for this girl. I need a place to do it. Can I use your space? And she said, absolutely, you can do whatever you want. And then I'm like, okay, how can I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time? We have no time here. Time is of the essence. What am I going to do? And so I made up, no idea if it was going to work or not, this speed dating for Botox, where I was going to do as much Botox as I could possibly do in a 2-hour window of time. And I was going to give it all away for free, and it was all going to be donations for Becky and her family. And I had a tremendous amount of people that came out of the woodworks to support me, nurses that volunteered to help me make this happen. I had to be the person with the needle, but they took care of everything else. And then we did a ton of giveaways, free filler, free Botox, or anything I could give away, gave it away. That meant more raffle tickets, more opportunities. And it just created this frenzy. And about a couple days before, unfortunately, Becky passed away. So we didn't make it to the event for her, but she left behind a young husband and a young child. And so, obviously we were going to move forward with the event and do that. And so as a result of that, we raised, I think it was $7,500 in about 2 hours for his family, which is amazing that our community is really strong out here and people are really supportive and very, very generous. And so we were able to do that for the family. And I've stayed in touch with them. And when Ken asked me to come out here, he said, if there's somebody you want to bring out, and I said, I'd love to kind of remember Becky and talk about her a little bit. Her mom's out of town right now. She's in Alaska. So she sent something over for us. And I think Butch has that.
I do. And this is an email from her, the mom. I'm going to read it out loud real quick. Pretty inspiring, honestly. I just, there's a consistent theme here, Erin. You like to serve people, I feel like. Whether it's your time as a nurse in the, I think it's Mott, right? Did you say Mott? Mm-hmm. Whether your goals for the future about trying to set up a consultative station for future
injectors.
Injectors, and then put them on their own. It's pretty incredible. So this email, we met Erin about a week before Becky passed. We were looking for someone who could come out to the house and give her a vitamin C treatment. A friend of mine gave me Erin's number, and from that point on, this amazing lady reached out to us in more ways than you can begin to imagine. First, she came over and met Becky and Kyle, and when she came, she brought a little gift for Becky. Becky was so excited to receive that. I think I recall there was a new pair of pajamas so that she would feel good, and a couple oils and hand creams and stuff for her. Erin stayed for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours at night just talking. The day before Becky died, we were at the hospital, and I called Erin to ask her a question. Becky did not want to come to our house. She knew she was dying. I asked Erin what I should do because with all my heart, I wanted her to come home. Erin very calmly talked me down off the railing I was on and said, you need to do what Becky wants you to do. Erin told me if you want to crawl up in bed with Becky, with her, hold her, whatever you need to do it. Whatever you need to do as a mama, do it. So Becky went on that night to a hospice center with 24 hours and she was gone. 2 days later, Erin came to our house with gift cards, packages, saying that she had gotten from another friend for Liam. We were blown away with her generosity. The next year, on March 24th, I lost my husband. We were married for 43 years and he died from COVID. Then just a week later, I tested positive for COVID myself. I gave Erin a call and she asked if she would mind coming giving Kyle and I vitamin C shots. Of course, no hesitation, she was right there. I believe that the vitamin C shots helped me fight COVID. She continues to this day to check in on me, to see how I'm doing every now and then. And we only met weeks before Becky died. This young lady is an amazing woman. So thankful God brought her into my life. That is an incredible testimony.
Yeah. Thanks, Butch. Erin is amazing. Your business is amazing.
Thank you.
And I'd only trust you with my face. You know that. And I appreciate you being here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me.
Sure. And, we can all, people are hurting around us, whether it's the rain falling that hard on people's lives or just a bummer day. And, I think, just every day, if we take a little bit of time just to look at others and not just ourselves, like all the way back to the ICU thing, no matter how bad, like my situation was, there's people that had it way worse, and I'll never forget them. No matter how bad our day is going, it's probably not as bad as her last couple of years has been. And so I'm appreciative of anyone who takes time to see those people and help them, whether it's with their business or just personally. We can all do a little bit. We all have our own issues to bear in life and burdens, but it's always nice if someone comes along and helps you with them. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate you helping people in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate that you guys are doing this and helping to kind of share these and help others. So I think that's it's gonna open that platform and open that door to do that. So I think it's great.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for bringing Coco.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. She wasn't very feisty, but
Yeah.
You get what you get. You get snuggles and love with her.
She was great.
It's hilarious. She's like a living stuffed animal.
It is.
So how do people find you?
My website's revivalrn.com. My Instagram's at revivalrn. Facebook.
How do they find
And we are located in Green Oak Village Place Mall.
Right.
Over by Buffalo Wild Wings. Anyone that's over that side of town can find us there. Coco is always there. If I am there, Coco is there.
How do they find her on social media?
Oh, we can find Coco on @LilCocoFluff.
Check the screen right now.
I think it's up on the screen. Oh yeah.
And so will they just call in, set an appointment, walk in?
They can call or text us. So we're like, with the new ages, people like to text as much as we all want a phone conversation. People are busy. So we call it our bat phone at work. It's a bat phone. It's got a bat symbol on it, and it's our work phone. So you can call or text us, and we can schedule consultations or treatments. My consultations are always free. A lot of people are uneasy or unsure about, injectables. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it costs. They don't know what they do. They're nervous. So I do really detailed and thorough consultations, and I offer that service for free to help people put together a plan that they're comfortable with.
Great.
All right. Great. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Butch.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Okay, and we're going to close out by learning a little bit more about what Butch Herzog does at Executive Wealth Management.
Hello, I'm Albert Herzog, certified financial planner, private wealth advisor here at Executive Wealth Management. I actually started when I was young. My father was the founder of Executive Wealth Management. Knowing what I wanted to do allowed me to be a student of this industry from a very young age. After working for 2 of the major wirehouses, I had a few options of where I wanted to work. I chose to work at Executive Wealth Management because I align myself with their build, defend, and advance philosophies. There's a certain value that you place on each and every relationship that's hard to find elsewhere. I believe everyone could use a financial advisor. I believe that whether you're just getting started in your career or you're just ending your career, I believe there's decisions that everybody comes across constantly that can have a major effect on your life and your overall lifestyle. If a disciplined approach and compassionate service is something that you are interested in, I welcome the opportunity to meet with you.